It's amazing how much shit you realise is on your face when you look in the camera. So I'm about to start building another Pinto turbo out here in the garage at home, just DIY stuff. It's going to be pretty much what I built for my Cortina. So I have done it. I've done all the trial and error, so we'll just see how we go. But I'll start it, and I'll just try and video as much as I can as I go. And then if you've got any questions, just ask. But it is completely doable at home if you've got basic skills. So we'll get started and then we'll just go from there. And I'll try and document as much as I can on everything. Alright, cheers. So the inlet manifold we're using is a Nissan Pulsar gtir, ITBs, common plenum. Not the best setup for turbo because you've got to run TPS as load, so instead of map. But mine's tuning well. It's on 10 psi on a stock motor at the moment, and very, very responsive. So that's what we're going to use on this one as well. Nissan Pulsar gtir inlet to for 2-litre Pinto. I've done this before. I've done it on my motor, and I'm doing another one for my nephew. But you learn so much by the second time you've done it. So I should have started a while ago, but this is all I start with is 10mm alloy plate. They have a common bolt hole. This hole here on the inlet is the same as that hole there on the Pinto, and then you can just go from there. So on the plate, what I did was, obviously this way is the way that's facing you, so you want to turn it over, which means that you want to turn the gasket over as well. The first time I did this, I marked it all out, so I was, I knew what was front, what was back. As you can see, common bolt hole. That gasket sits on there nicely. I made sure I left enough alloy to be able to get both gaskets on there and seal properly. So that's a 2-litre inlet gasket, and that's on there, common bolt hole. You turn it around. So all I did was I marked that bolt hole, drilled it, held the gasket on there, marked out those holes there, and then drilled those as well. Then I marked out where these holes will be, and I drilled them, and I drilled them with a smaller hole saw this time. That's 35mm. When I did mine, I did it with 44mm, and I really didn't do myself any favors because the hole was so big that I had to port match the head to the adapter plate. And you can see how much I had to open those up. These are just a spare engine. This is just for mock-up. But I had to open them up quite a bit. And I also had to do the same on the throttle bodies. These are a spare set of GTR throttle bodies, but you can see how much I had to open these up as well. And the ones that are on my car at the moment, like you look at that little bung's gone there, and you look at those ones, you can see how much I had to open them up. And the ones that are actually on the car at the moment, I opened up quite significantly. So like I say, this time I went 35mm instead of 44mm, and it lined up perfectly with the holes, so you don't have to port match the head to the adapter plate to the throttle bodies. It just bolts straight on. No modifications needed to those, and no modification needed to the head itself. So back to this. That's the inlet Pinto gasket on there. Turn it around, and this is now the face that faces you. This is the front, and that's the back. There's no hole, there's no bolt on this one because that's the common bolt, so you can just use a normal bolt through that one. This is a gasket I made as a template off the back of those, because I didn't buy a gasket, so I just made one out of cardboard. And you can see where I've marked it all. This is up, this is face, that's that. It's a bit of a mission to sort out. But once it was on there, I drew around the holes, and then I just got the Dremel in there and opened them up so they matched that, because that matches that. So that's it. That's all it needed, and I did that with a battery drill, some drill bits, 35mm hole saw, Dremel, and then countersunk. I didn't even have a proper countersink. I just used a bigger drill bit until they were sunk enough. I surfaced it, so you know when that seals, it's sealed flat. When I seal them on, I run sealant through all of those as well, so they seal flat. To hold the adapter plate on, I use 20mm countersunk bolts, or hex head bolts. They hold it to the head, and then 40mm ones from the back poking through. Those ones hold the inlet manifold on. So those ones there obviously go through, hold that to the head. These ones poke through, which hold the inlet manifold onto the head. So you can see there, by using the 35mm hole saw, it just lines up perfectly with the bores inside, standard bores, or standard inlet bore anyway. So it's much better than the what I had to do. Makes life a lot easier. You also need to trim a chunk off there if you want to run the factory temp sensor, and re-drill this hole here further up, so you can cut that chunk off as well for the same thing, temp sensor. So that's the adapter bolted onto the head. The only thing you've got to do is you've got to bevel the back edge here, but I'll do that before I finally put all the motor together. Just for the where the cam cover sits, you know, it's got to slot down behind it, so I just bevel it off on an angle. But like I say, I'll do that before it goes on the motor, and that's just a mock-up motor for now. And there you go, it's all mounted on. As you can see, dizzy is issue. On mine, I turned my throttle position sensor up the other way, so it made room, but you still got to get rid of the dizzy and run a trigger setup, but we will get to that when we get to that. For now, I'm going to leave the TPS where it is, because this is slightly different to mine. Mine's got way more shit going on with it, and this one won't. This is going to be kind of a stockish. So it doesn't allow you much room. If you thought you could run a dizzy, you can't. I did make one a while ago, but it's still not good enough. You need to run a trigger system, and I run two, trigger and home signal, but like I say, we will get to that. But that's the manifold on for now. So any questions so far, just ask. You know, it's the hardest part about this is actually finding the bits these days. Time, it doesn't take much, and money wise you can do this pretty cheap if you can find all the parts. So like I say, any questions, just ask and I'll try and answer them as I can. But this is the same setup I've done on mine, and it's running. Cheers. Also, if you're interested, the furthest point out is about 285mm away from the head.